time with lawmakers. The president surprising observers by, at times, favoring proposals from gun control advocates, California Democrat Dianne Feinstein and Minnesota Democrat Amy Klobuchar, while stunning conservatives with a seemingly flippant attitude on constitutional due process rights. And some pushback on Congressman Steve Scalise, who you'll remember survived a shooting last June.
I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case that just took place in Florida. Take the guns first, go through due process second. Joe, can you do that, Pat? Can you add some of the things? You're not going to agree with me.
If you help.
Well, no, I'll help, but can you add what Amy and what Dianne have? You'll never get this passed. If you add concealed carry to this, you'll never get it passed.
Our Capitol Hill guru, Chad Burgum, joins us now, right? Chad, what did we learn about the president's intentions? He's kind of been all over the place, and he was in this meeting today, too, about what he wants to see done on guns.
Well, it's clear that he is deviating from the traditional Republican orthodoxy on guns. And this is where people are starting to wonder whether or not this is a tectonic plate shift on firearms. I talked earlier in the week with Bob Casey, Democratic senator from Pennsylvania. He said it feels like things are shifting, but he doesn't know if this is a tipping point or not. Elizabeth Esty, Democratic congresswoman from Connecticut, represents Newtown, home of the shooting in 2012. She says it is a tipping point. So we think back about Newtown and Columbine and Virginia Tech. All of these things seem to be seismic events, but are they just fissures where things start to move a little bit? Is this really the big thing? When you talk to Chris Murphy, the Democratic senator from Connecticut, he says, wait a minute, things have changed. He said, fundamentally, you never had a Republican president talking about some of the things on firearms that he's proposing right now. And that's why Republicans, you know, if you looked at the body language from Steve Scalise, the whip, John Cornyn, the Republican whip in the meeting, they seem to be very uncomfortable. And the question is, well, what can they get done here, Shannon?
Right, because it doesn't matter what he proposes if the votes aren't there on the Hill to get something to his desk. So what's next? Will they get something substantive done?
This is all about a balancing act, especially on Capitol Hill. He even said at one point during the meeting, he said it is tough to get votes on Capitol Hill. And it's kind of the Goldilocks theory here. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right. If you put together a comprehensive bill, you try to put too many things in the bill, which is something the president says he wants to do, you might start to lose votes because you put some things that are in for sweeteners, that we call them sweeteners on Capitol Hill. We have Goldilocks and apparently a spoonful of sugar. We have Mary Poppins here, too, makes the medicine go down. Or some of those things are perceived as poison pills. So how do you get that balance right? The president talked about the reciprocity, the concealed carry between state lines. That was a bill in the House of Representatives that passed, and the sweetener was the enhanced background checks. If you strip that out, what happens in the Senate? That would probably get through the Senate, but then you move it back across to the House of Representatives. Do Democrats say, wait a minute, we want more on guns? So how do you strike that balance? Not too hot, not too cold, but just right.
Yeah, and it's interesting because while you said, he talked about comprehensive. I like the word comprehensive. That's make something beautiful, I think was his word. He wanted to get something sweeping done. But there were also times when he said that things couldn't be paired up, like in this conversation that he had with Steve Scalise. So how are conservatives feeling? Some of them seem very nervous after watching this meeting today.
There are Republicans in the Senate. There are a number of them who I spoke with in the past couple of days who, after their meeting yesterday where they talked to Mitch McConnell, and he talked about school safety. He didn't say guns. He said school safety. There are some who say we have to do something on firearms. We absolutely have to. Something, the big amorphous something. There's others who say, wait a minute, it's an election year, it's 2018. If we deviate from the usual position that Republicans have had on firearms, does the NRA come after us? And again, Chris Murphy, the Democratic senator from Connecticut, he raised the point in the meeting saying, wait a minute, Mr. President, you don't understand how powerful the NRA is because Chris Murphy's a Democrat. He has felt the wrath. If Republicans deviate too much, you could have a situation where the NRA turns fire on Republicans, not Democrats.
Yeah, and then you have somebody running to the right or more conservative on this issue of guns and avoiding more gun control or new laws. So that's something I'm sure that everybody is thinking about as they sit in that room with the president, who proposed a lot of things. All right, we will see. Chad, always good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming in. All right, as